Chris Dixon talks about the Chad Dawson Andre Ward matchup at super middleweight and how the fight is not creating a big buzz. And he's saying that basically Sergio Martinez and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. is stealing the thunder away from that particular match. He actually has a bullet point in the article where it says, not able to steal the Latino thunder. Dixon talks about how Chavez is not being given the credit for his achievements, and he's kind of looked on as a leech who's leeching off the legend, which is his father, who I can say, as a boxing fan, who's privileged to see him from the 80s when he knocked out Edwin Rosario, all the way through to the Meldrick Taylor fights, and when he smashed Greg Haugen to pieces, and when he terrorized Hector Camacho. The man was a legend. And I'm going to be fair to his son. It's basically unfair for people to even assume he'd ever be able to fill the shoes that was worn by the legend of his father. He was that good. He was that good. So that's unfair to compare him to his dad. It's just unfair. It's just unfair. But at the same time, the reason objective people, not haters, objective people, are so against Chavez is, okay, he's failed the drug tests, and he's not the only person who failed a drug test. So that's one aspect. You fail, you pay your fine, whatever punishment is laid out, that's that. But we've got to look on factors like how he gained his WBC title, how they elevated Sergio Martinez to the Diamond Champion, so Chavez could get the lesser title, only then for Bob Arum and the WBC and Jose Sulaiman to play politics and marginalize Martinez until he gave up the belt. And now Chavez is the official champion. In effect, initially, it looked like they was rewarding Martinez to say, yeah, we acknowledge you're an elite fighter, you're so good that you get a diamond belt. Who do they do that for? They don't do that for nobody. They don't really give a fuck about fighters. They don't do that. When in all truth, they invented the belt so they could play politics and elevate Chavez into a position where maybe his fistic endeavors alone couldn't have took him. That's fucked up. So that's why people are pissed. And let's not forget, there's been at least 2 or 3 times where he's just blatantly walked out of post-fight drug testing. And let's not forget the questionable rehydrations after weigh-ins, where he's coming in as a cruiserweight. Let's not forget that. I watched Emmanuel Stewart bite his tongue after the Andy Lee fight when he really wanted to say something, because Chavez refused to have his gloves weighed during the weigh-ins. Bob Arum and Top Rank managed to secure a ludicrously small ring. I'm not even sure if it met the 16-foot requirement. You know what I mean? Because it's 16 to 20 foot as far as I know. I'm not even sure if it met that requirement. But I'm going to dismiss that because Andy Lee was not boxing with his legs enough anyway. His legs looked dead anyway, so they could have fought the fight basically in a 4-foot ring because he wasn't using enough movement anyway, and Chavez didn't have to do much to cut the ring down on him, And if you're going to fight Chavez, you need to use a style where you use enough angles that he can't just walk you down, Because if you do that, he's not that skilled an inside fighter where he can use feints to cut the ring down, you know, or cat shots on his shoulders or in his gloves and counter. And that's the kind of scenario that Martinez needs to exploit. And it seems apparent that the Texas State Athletic Commission did not test Chavez before or after the bout. Emanuel Stewart is from a different generation where you bite your tongue, you air your grievances to your close associates and your friends and your family. You use the proper channels to lodge a complaint against the factors that went against you to the Athletic Commission, to the WBC. But you don't go to websites or magazines or newspapers and start slandering people. That's the kind of ethics that Emanuel Stewart is fucking with. You can obviously see that. Sergio Martinez, for somebody who, at least on the surface of what I've seen in the public, has such a cool demeanor, he seems very agitated, very angry. And I can understand that through the treatment that he got from the WBC. I can understand that. But he seems really angry. And it's not a cliche of what I'm going to say next. You can ask old boxing coaches from yesteryear and today. That anger is really not a great recipe to take into a boxing ring, especially if you're more a technician and a boxer more than a slugger. And he's angry. He wants a KO. And it was Mark Willis, a heavyweight fringe contender from the 90s and the 80s. He wasn't no famous boxer, but for some reason there's a quote that I remember reading for him, and it's just popped into my head. And he said basically, KOs come when you're doing your job properly. And if Martinez is really dead set on this KO like that, who knows? Who knows what can happen? Chavez's pressure and body shots against Martinez's movement and straight left are more than likely going to be the deciding factors in this particular fight. Anybody with an ounce of objectivity who hasn't had a few thoughts that have flashed in their head that deciding factors outside of the ring may well come into play is a liar. But enough said about that. Let's move on. On the guest column this week we have Bob Me, who has been doing some research in tracking down the actual birth date of Sonny Liston, which has always been a mystery in boxing parliaments. Some people even estimating that Sonny was born in the early 20s. But they've managed to track down the census in April 1940. And they can deduce that Sonny was probably born somewhere between October 1930 and the late summer of 1931. That will make him older than his official birth date of May the 8th, 1932, but not by much. Therefore, he was probably about 33 years of age when he lost his heavyweight crown to Muhammad Ali in February 1964, and that's as close as we'll probably get. On the panel, the question is posed, how good can Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. become? And Eddie Chambers says, his potential is unlimited. He's a great size middleweight, and he's only going to get stronger. If he can get past Martinez, he can go on to take over the division. Craig McEwen, a Scottish middleweight, he says if he beats Martinez, he will be one of the best. But even if he does beat Martinez, he won't have anything on his father. But regardless, he'll be the man to beat. Matthew Macklin says he's won a world title and defended it, so he's proven himself to be a good fighter. Even if he loses to Martinez, he'll still be a player in the division. Anthony Farnell, he says he can become very good. Very, very good. Obviously not as good as his father, but when I first saw him fight, I thought he was hopeless. Now he appears to be a machine in the ring. They also asked, at 41 years of age, is Vitaly Klitschko ready for the taking? Eddie Chambers says he may be 41, but he does not fight like a 41-year-old. He's still one of the best heavyweights out there. The guys he's been fighting are not up to the job. Craig McEwen says, at the moment, there is no one in the division who looks capable of taking him out. He keeps himself in good shape and he doesn't look his age, so the answer is no. Matthew Macklin says, it's possible. He struggled with Del Boy Chisora and he looked tired at the end of that fight. If he faces a really good fighter, he could come unstuck. Anthony Farnell says, yes, I do. The Klitschkos have a great amateur style, using a long jab. They overpower their opponents, but it's a fact that they can't go on forever. My answer to both questions, I don't think Julio Cesar Chavez is on his way to the Hall of Fame. The second question, Vitaly goes in as the heavy favorite to beat Manuel Charr. That can't be disputed. But I can't ignore the creaking bones, which is the best analogy that I can see creeping into his style. And if he does continue to fight, I do see that happening to him. I actually do see that happening to him. And he's a thinking man. He's a thinking man. And if I'm seeing that, then I'm sure he knows in himself that he's fighting on borrowed time. Letters and tweets. I'm not really going to go into the letters because there's not really much there that I want to cover. There is one delusional letter of somebody named Michael Torb who seems to think that it's not important if David Price and Mr. Fury do not fight for the British title, which is a ridiculous statement, you know what I mean? He's saying, let the fight build up and it will set itself. It doesn't need to build up no more, because basically we're living in an era of satellite TV and internet. All these guys' fights are there for people to see what they can do. They have interviews plastered all over YouTube and on different boxing websites. You know, David Price is on Box Nation fighting now. Fury is on terrestrial TV on Channel 5. His fights are all covered on there. At this stage, the fight sells itself for what it is. Two undefeated fighters, you know what I mean, banging it out for the British title. And the fact that they're over 6'8", undefeated, and they're Caucasian, the reason I'm saying that is because the United Kingdom, for the most part, is mostly Caucasian. And as tribal as it is, they want to see their own fight. So 2 6'9" undefeated young heavyweights, Caucasian, fighting for the British and I don't know if the Commonwealth or whatever else is on the line. Fury will have the Irish and some of the Manchester crowd behind him. David Price will have the Liverpudlian, or Liverpool as more commonly known to the rest of the world. He'll have that contingency behind him. And even myself as a black man who remembers the domestic clashes between white fighters is kind of missing a big domestic fight between two Caucasians. This is the UK. You know what I mean? This fight is needed. You know what I mean? And you trying to say that they should let the fight build up is ridiculous. You're saying let them win European titles and beat some fringe contenders, etc., blah blah. Who's to say that one of them might get knocked out before that ever materializes? You know? This fight is hot now. I mean, by the time Lennox Lewis had a similar amount of fights to these two guys, he already knocked off Gary Mason for the British title. And Mason, at least at domestic level, was a seasoned fighter. Why ain't the best British fighters fighting? Why isn't Frankie Gavin fighting Kell Brook? Why is he fighting Junior Witter? So what if Junior Witter's got the British title? The best fight out there at welterweight is Frankie Gavin and Kell Brook. The best heavyweight fight is David Price and Fury. The best middleweight fight is Matthew Macklin and Darren Barker. Or perhaps the other guy who fought Felix Sturm, Martin Murray. Why ain't these fights materializing? I don't get it. Because I grew up on Lloyd Honeyghan versus Sylvester Mitty. They were the two top welterweights in the 80s. Mark Kaler versus Errol Christie. Then Mark Kaler fought Harold Graham. Tough opposition. He won one, he lost the other. But he was fighting the toughest opposition. He also fought Tony Simpson, which he lost on points. Another forgotten British fighter. What was Duke McKenzie? Was Duke McKenzie a flyweight? Yeah, he fought Charlie Magri. The young up-and-coming Duke McKenzie fought the ex-British and world title holder at flyweight, Charlie Magri. And, you know, these fights were on terrestrial television at that time. And they meant something. But, you know, you guys are just devaluing domestic boxing, in my opinion, you know. In my opinion. At Mike Tyson, he's talking some philosophical shit that I'm not even going to bother to quote. At Joe Selkirk, 69, another good session in the MGM today with Seamus and Matthew Macklin. Starting to feel better at Matt Macklin. Apparently Matthew Macklin is looking good in sparring. At Floyd Mayweather, I'm bored sitting at the top alone. Can some other bosses come and play? It's tough at the top, according to pound for pound ruler Floyd Mayweather. At Amir King Khan, got the biggest yacht on the sea in Marbella. It's time for some rest and relaxation for Amir Khan. At Adnir Amar, 5 a.m. equals the best time to go running. All roads are clear, no cars, no people. Adnan Amar likes to start early to avoid the crowds. At Venice Boxing, November the 10th, I'm bringing a big weapon, so after I beat Erizlandi Lara, people can jump on the Team Vans wagon. Chad Dawson says he's ready for Andre Ward, SOG, at Team Dawson. At ESPN FNF, I was very impressed with Gennady Golovkin, but let's not overreact. It was Gregor's Proskauer beat and not Marvin Hagler. Nigel Collins putting Golovkin's performance into perspective. Much needed perspective, because people are saying that Golovkin is this ducked and avoided fighter. And look, dude is obviously powerful and he's got a good boxing brain. He appears to be a threat on the middleweight horizon. There's no doubt about that. Just the other month, Proskauer was losing to Kerry Hope in Britain. Feather-fisted Kerry. And this shit needs to be put in perspective. And Nigel Collins, as usual, is the man to put a lot of bullshit in boxing in perspective. At Klitschko, Vitaly has arrived in Moscow. At Tony Bellew, he says he's been training like a lion, and that's in anticipation of his fight with Edison Miranda at the Alexander Palace on Saturday. At Maravilla Box, what a training camp. I am happy. I am privileged. I am in the shape of my life. Sergio Martinez is apparently feeling good. I tell you what, man. I pressed the cancel button on the fucking editing program I've got, man. I fucking wiped out practically all of the boxing report. And I just can't get in the mental mindset to start doing it all again. And I'm sorry about that. I apologize. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to round it up. Just going to give you a few news stories with a few fights what are going to happen today and next week, and just do that, and I'm going to get out of here, man. It's been fucked up. Matthew Macklin takes on Joachim Alcine on September the 15th, which is next week. And should be a good fight. We're going to see how much Macklin has learnt from Buddy McGirt. I actually tipped Matthew to beat Sergio Martinez because I thought he was going to close down the space on Martinez. Because that was the only way to deal with the left hand, is to be so close that he couldn't get set and get enough room to throw it. But people say that Matthew Macklin did well in that fight. I thought he would have done better if he had just stuck to slugging, because he just started working with Buddy McGirt. A week or two is not enough to modify your style to face somebody who uses movement like Martinez. Oscar De La Hoya has just dodged a bullet. Angelina Secora, who claims to have been intimidated by Oscar, has been ordered to pay the former multiple world title holder to pay all of his legal costs after the judge deemed the lawsuit frivolous and malicious. Mike Tyson has a speaking engagement in Barnsley in October. This engagement has been condemned by the Barnsley Sexual Abuse and Rape Crisis Service. Because of his previous conviction for rape, this may also prevent Tyson entering New Zealand to speak in Auckland. Sonny Bill Williams, who plays rugby union for the All Blacks, is scheduled to box his 6th professional fight against Franz Bofer in Durban. And speaking of boxers coming from other sports, professional sports, I hear Freddie Flintoff is planning to fling on the gloves and try his luck. Nathan Cleverly, the WBO light heavyweight champion, is about to make a defense against someone named Yusel Koff on October the 27th. I'm going to refrain from attacking Cleverly's resume as a world champion. I've did that enough already, and so are a lot of other people, and it's not totally unjustifiable why he's getting ribbed like he's getting ribbed, because you're walking around as a world champion, and come on, man, I don't know. You should have done more to force a possible Hopkins or Mikhail Kessler fight, you know. Nobody's impressed and nobody really thinks you're a world champion, but I'm not going to get on your back. It's a nothing fight in terms of world championships. It's another nothing fight. Carl Froch is fighting a nothing fight, but I suppose we can't bash Carl too hard because he has fought elite competition. He hasn't always come up on top when he has done that, but he has at least tried. He fights Yusuf Mack, and his IBF super middleweight crown will be on the line. I'll break that fight down like this. Mack will have the athleticism in the early rounds to make the fight competitive. The fact that he throws punches in combinations, or at least he attempts to, and the fact that Carl Froch doesn't like moving out of the way of heavy artillery could make this a more competitive fight in the early rounds than what a lot of people expect. And I see Mack hitting Carl pretty easily for the first few rounds before Mack's fragilities around the chin and mental fortitude show up, and by the 5th or 6th round Froch should be in charge, and it should be a routine defense from there, I suppose. Amir Khan has been telling journalists that Juan Guzman is not a suitable opponent for his comeback fight, which is a preposterously, ludicrously, I need some more long words, mean to address how I feel about that statement there. It's just, I don't know, I mean, I don't know, dude. I don't know. I don't know why you say things like that. I don't know. I don't get it. There's nobody who checks for my blog weekly with any boxing knowledge who agrees with what you said. I don't hang around boxing gyms. I'm not a trainer. I'm not a promoter or a coach. But I know there is nobody with any boxing knowledge who's going to agree with what you said. Because it's preposterous. Yes, he is more than a credible opponent for you. One fighter who we don't hear ever saying ridiculous shit like that is Miguel Cotto, who deserves a round of applause for taking on WBA light middleweight champion Austin Trout. Cotto, off the back of the credible performance he put up against Floyd Mayweather, could have easily fought at the MSG or anywhere in New York where he's a big draw and took on a lesser opponent and made his money and just did that. But no, he's taking on Trout because he just keeps it 100, man. I mean, man, I just give this dude props, man. I give him props. Man fought Shane Mosley. He fought Clottey, Zab Judah. He fought Hands of Bricks. He fought Pacquiao, weight drained. And I still insist that if he wasn't weight drained, he would have knocked Pacquiao out. I actually tipped him to knock Pacquiao out. But I didn't realize. I did realize something. I've followed in boxing so long, man. And sometimes when we hear a fighter is struggling to lose a pound, we think, what's 1 pound? I'm telling you, man, when you look at these guys and their stomachs are like marble, and they're chiseled out, and they still got to find an extra pound to lose, man. You know? And when they do lose it, it's not coming out of body fat. You know, because they've barely got none left. When you fight dehydrated, and, you know what I mean, you ain't getting enough fluid to your spinal cord and your brain and that shit, whatever, you're in the red zone now. You're actually in the danger zone. Whoop, whoop. That's where you are now. It's that serious. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. That's why I was glad he didn't accept another catchweight fight with Pacquiao. I said, if he accepts another catchweight fight with Pacquiao, I was just going to dedicate the rest of the year making videos cussing him out. And I was serious. But he didn't do it. The boxing news think a Jose Olusegun will not see the final bell when he takes on Lucas Matisse. But I just want to say this. His last opponent, Soto, didn't show any footwork or any kind of sign of elusiveness in the ring. And a lot of people, like professional journalists as well, you get really carried away when one fighter pounds on another fighter who isn't using any defensive strategy to combat that. And don't get me wrong, if you decide to stand right in front of someone and they blow you away, you have to give props to the person who's doing the damage, because you got to do what you got to do. But you have to put the Soto result in perspective. The guy stood right in front of Lucas. A Jose is very hard to hit clean on the chin from what I've seen of the dude fight. He throws punches from awkward angles. And another thing you guys don't take into account, it's easy to be impressed when someone is just blasting on someone and landing full blooded shots on a sitting target. But it's not so easy to do that when you're getting hit yourself. When the person's movement is offsetting you from setting yourself to punch. And trust me on this. The boxing news say that Ajose will not see the final bell. But I just want to reassure all the Nigerian crew is that Ajose will fight and he will stand up and he will compete for 12 rounds. And if he gets a chance to knock out Matisse, he will gladly accept that. He's not a concussive puncher, but he can hit and he can hurt. And he's more than capable of hurting Lucas Matisse. This ain't a prediction video, but I'll take a bet with Boxing News that Ajose will not get knocked out and he will cover himself in glory in this fight. That's my prediction. Unless Vitaly Klitschko falls apart at the seams and just becomes an old fighter overnight, he should easily dispose of Manuel Charr. Manuel is just too easy to hit, man. He just too basic a fighter to cope with Vitaly. There is a chance that Vitaly could fall apart. He's not getting no purchase in terms of power in his punches no more. You know, he doesn't like it when he's forced to concede ground. You saw that in the Del Boy Chisora fight. And perhaps the 28-year-old Charr may have the hunger to do something special tonight, but it's doubtful. It's doubtful. For some reason, the Boxing News have not given a prediction result on this fight. Maybe they didn't think they needed to. I'm not really going to go into the boxing strategies of Andre Ward or Chad Dawson, whose best promotion in the last few weeks is the fact that this Chad Johnson guy has had beef with his girlfriend or wife, Evelyn. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who's called Chad Dawson Chad Johnson in the last few weeks. And even that alone, as quaint, trivial, and funny a story as that is, this fight needs all the promotion it can get. And we have to ask the question why that is, because Andre Ward convincingly won the Super 6 and pushed himself into the top 5 pound for pound rankings. The best super middleweight in the world, barring none. Yeah. Olympic gold medalist. 25-0, 13 knockouts. He takes on Chad Dawson, a double world champion at super middleweight and light heavyweight. Chad has beat the likes of Bernard Hopkins, Glenn Johnson, Antonio Tarver twice. He's beat Glenn Johnson twice, actually. Thomas Adamic. So his resume is fairly impressive too. He lost one fight to Jean Pascal, a fight that he nearly rescued, and he nearly KO'd Pascal. A fight that I find frustrating that somebody of his ability lost. But it is what it is. And I suppose in past history, Ward has showed more ability to improvise during a fight than Chad has, leading the way for him to be a favorite. I also think Chad, who is 30 years of age now, losing that poundage to get back down to super middleweight, a weight that he hasn't fought for in a good few years. I don't know, man. I don't know. You see, I was just speaking about losing weight with Miguel Cotto just a minute ago when I was talking about Miguel fighting Austin Trout. And it's not going to help him. I'm going to say that. It's not going to help him. I don't know how much it's going to hinder him, but it's not going to help him. He's 30 years of age. I'm not too really worried about the result. I just want to see the fight. I just want to see the action. That's all I really want to see. The more pressing questions to me is why there isn't a big buzz about this fight. Why isn't there? I mean, let's dismiss the heavyweight division, which African Americans haven't dominated for at least the best part of 8 or 9 years. Have African American fighters become a victim of their own success? I haven't put people like Floyd Mayweather in that list or Mike Tyson because they are household names. They're African American fighters who are household names. Sugar Ray Leonard, household name. Like even somebody like Marvin Hagler in the 80s, probably a household name. But today, in all truth, somebody like Hagler could probably walk down the road and a lot of people wouldn't know who he was. Evander Holyfield, Hall of Fame, legend. But and I think people would recognize Evander if he walked on the road today. A lot of people would. I do believe that. But at the same time, do the general public, and I'm talking in America, do they just see him as, yeah, it's just another black boxer who's won some titles? Because we're used to seeing that. That's how it's supposed to go. So what? What's the big deal? That is why there was a big controversial row when Floyd said what he said about Jeremy Lin. And there was a lot of elements of truth to what he said. And Floyd didn't say anything racist. He didn't call him Ching Chang. He didn't say anything like that. He didn't say anything stupid like that. He just pointed out a fact that there's guys in the NBA, black guys, running up the court all day, and I don't know if they can fly like Jordan did, but I know people like LeBron, Kobe, are all that. And as soon as this Asian guy does a couple of moves on the court, he's been elevated above a lot of guys who are probably exceeding what he does. But you see, that's propaganda, because the NBA were obviously looking for the advertising market from the Asian demographic, why that was happening. And you might not like these aspects of the world, but it's a reality. It's a day-to-day reality. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't feel sorry for Chad Johnson. Called him Chad Johnson, man. I did it. I don't feel sorry for Chad Dawson or Andre Ward. I don't. Sportsmen of all ethnicities who come into sport, especially in 2012, and the way most mediums of entertainment, and that includes news programs and programs geared to education, documentaries, if they can't get a sponsor, a large sponsor, they either don't get on the air or they get shifted into the unfashionable hours, the hours that the sponsors haven't targeted to sell their product or their name brand. They're relying basically on the sponsorships that the television stations are taking for other programs to keep them on the air. This is real shit. You've got to be able to connect to your audience. You might not want to do it. You might just want to fight. But boxing's a short career. I just read that Chad Dawson is only making $600,000 for this fight. Chad's a double world champion who's only lost once in about 32 fights or something like that. That shouldn't be happening to him. It's sad. I don't know how much Andre Ward is making, but $600,000 is pitiful for a fight of this magnitude. It's sad. I'm sure David Haye cleared well over that. I don't know how much Derek Chisora made. And there was no world title at stake. I probably feel a bit more sorry for Andre Ward, because he's a fluent speaker, a confident speaker. He's not dull. He's not extra flamboyant, but he's far from dull, and he's far from unopinionated. He can speak for himself. I did think their face-off was very good. They really tried to psych each other out without getting angry, which I admired about both of them. Which is the best way to psych somebody out, is without getting them angry. Is to pick something out of their brain without them even knowing that you did it. That's some slick shit. Like, I'm just paraphrasing some of the dialogue. I think Ward asked Dawson, why do you want to fight me? Because to be the greatest, you have to beat the greatest. So you think I'm one of the greatest? Yeah. Woo! Damn! I like that shit. That's slick. Andre Ward is a slick ass brother. You know what I mean? Very intelligent young man. Is there anything either of the two combatants could do to connect with their audience? White, Asians, Latinos? Question has to be asked. Miguel Cotto is not a big talker. He hasn't really got a flashy boxing style. He's a great fighter, but he hasn't got a flashy boxing style. The Puerto Ricans are always behind him if he fights in New York. Manny Pacquiao, what does he do to sell fights? He sings some little silly songs here and there. If he's asked anything awkward, ask Bob Arum or Freddie Roach. That's all he's dealing with. He's got the whole of the Philippines behind him. He's got a bag full of fans in the United States, United Kingdom. Anytime I watch Pacquiao at the snooker hall, man, you see Japanese, Malaysians, Asians, this, that. Full out the place, you know. Full out the place. And I make nice, you know what I mean? Another question that I can't really answer. I'm going to have to rely on some of my African American subscribers. Are you guys doing enough to hype up this fight? Is it HBO? Television networks? Showtime? I don't know who's hosting the fight tonight. Is it them guys? Is it the fact that a lot of them guys on HBO are always clamoring for fighters to fight blood and guts fights all the time? Is that hurting his fight? And if so, in 2012, is the pure boxer going the way of the dodo bird? Am I making too much of this? Is it just the fact that they don't have the charisma and personality to sell the fight? It's nothing to do with colour. Spectating and debating boxing is not as serious as a lot of the shit going on in mine and your lives. No, it isn't. But this fight has troubled me more than any other topic that I was going to talk about when I done my next video. This fight has troubled me. This is the kind of fight that should be representing boxing to say, yeah, look what we can do. But instead, it's getting treated like a 10-round fight on ESPN. And the way I see it is, a lot of you are saying you hate the Adrian Broner model of promoting fights. You can't stand him. You want to kill him. This, that. Well, you're leaving a certain demographic of fighters no choice but to not only show you how good they are in the ring, but verbally tell you as well, because they have no option. This is one of the toughest sports in the world to make your money. They're risking their life to make their living every time they go in that ring. You can't have it both ways. And I've already stated, I'm not too bothered about you guys who want to attack me for pointing out the possible ethnic and racial factors. I'm not really bothered about you. I don't give a fuck, because I know in my heart the only thing I'm dealing with is justice and fairness and fair play. That's all I'm dealing with. Andre Ward won the tournament. He beat all the best super middleweights out there. The other guy who you said was the best super middleweight, he chose to stay out of the tournament and got blown away by somebody who Andre Ward outpointed comprehensively. Chad Dawson not comprehensively, but fairly comfortably outpointed the legend of Bernard Hopkins. Joe Calzaghe barely scraped past him, barely. Chad has fought his way to the top of his profession, and now he's only getting $600,000 in what, in my opinion, is a super fight. It is a super fight. I don't care what you want to say. It is a super fight. You see, I know I'm going to enjoy the fight, because even if it's a chess match, I love watching skillful boxing chess matches, you know what I mean? I don't mind a slugfest here and there, but I love watching chess matches between two skillful fighters. So I'm covered. I'm covered either way. I'm covered. All the people who are on the same thinking track as me, I'll probably speak to you post-fight. Peace out.